In this episode, I speak to Pamela Biasca Losada, who is a health and emotional empowerment coach. Pamela discusses the need to do the detective work before you can focus on implementing an action plan for change. We discuss how leaders should show up in these uncertain times. Pamela reminds us that leaders must practice self-care and encourage others to do the same. We also look at the options that managers can take now to enhance the health and emotional empowerment of themselves and others. Listen to the rest of our conversation. Before we begin our conversation, here is a quick shout out to the pathologically curious. Check out the Maverick Paradox magazine. It's a digital magazine written by Mavericks for business owners and professionals. You can find the magazine at themaverickparadox.com. The magazine's aim is to provoke maverick leadership everywhere. Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And today our guest is Pamela Biasca Losada. Hi Pamela.
Hi Jude, how are you?
I'm feeling really good today. The sun is shining. It's very warm. I feel good.
That's great to hear. We actually have beautiful blue skies and sunny weather too, so I'm very excited about that too.
Brilliant. Before we start with our conversation, tell us about you.
Yes, so I'm probably just starting by saying that I'm originally from Switzerland, because I know a lot of people, when they hear me speak, they usually wonder, where is she from? Where is her accent from? So I always like to start with that, so people, we get that out of the way. So I'm from Switzerland. I'm actually from the Italian-speaking part originally. And I grew up bilingual with German since my mom is from Germany originally. But I've been living now in the United States for a little over a decade. So that's where I'm currently am. And professionally, I work as a health and emotional empowerment coach, which has been a great passion for me. It's been a wonderful experience. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. I mean, that's an interesting title. What does it mean?
Yes, so health and emotional empowerment. So it's almost like two different trainings and two different kind of backgrounds put together. My main background is actually psychology, and that's where I've been trained in. And then I really became very interested in kind of filling the gaps of what psychology would not be able to provide, which is related to more like a healthy lifestyle, healthy eating. And that's where kind of my original coaching career started, focusing on, nutrition a lot and some of the emotional well-being, but not as much as I actually really would have loved to at the beginning. And so eventually I kind of started pivoting more into the emotional well-being, and that's where the emotional empowerment came in as well. Also, personally, I used to be a client from the person that eventually trained me as an emotional empowerment coach. And I found this approach really very helpful with all the things I've been doing for my own health and well-being. I am very sure, I'm a firm believer that this portion has helped me the most, and still does to this day. It's something I can use every day. So it's a good tool to have available at any given time. Especially, but not only, but especially when, we have challenges going on, no matter how big or small. So I think it's been just something that's, for me, it's really been a blessing, and, a blessing to be able to come across this approach. And in coaching in general, I have to say, I find coaching very, very rewarding and very effective. So I really love that.
Cool. Thank you for that.
It's interesting that you talk about challenge, and as you can imagine, it's quite challenging these days at the moment. How does somebody show up as a leader in these times?
Yes, I think for me, especially because I'm a big self-care advocate, beside emotional well-being, I think what's very important is to really taking care of yourself as a leader. And really don't put self-care on the back burner, because I know when things are not going the way they normally go, when something kind of challenges us because it's something that maybe was not foreseeable, or something just happened, we often tend to neglect ourselves in the process. So self-care usually gets put back on the back burner, and maybe it was not very a priority in the first place, right? But even if it is, usually some of it or maybe all of it will just not happen. And so I think encouraging self-care, not just for the leader, him or herself, but also to encourage that in others, people you're working with, or the people you're around. They're around you, because I think it's good to provide those opportunities to make sure that others around you are also encouraged to practice more self-care during this challenging time. um, I also think it's the time where flexibility, it's also very important to, be more flexible, because, things are not going to be the same. And so just being open to, being flexible, and maybe making some arrangements, and maybe some things just need to, uh, just not be the priority for a little bit, until other things that are more important for that time being are taken care of. And just, this is really required us to just not stick to this, maybe to the rules or to a certain way of doing things, because, it's the time might be different, and we might need to just, be able to be flexible, and just, be okay with being flexible. And something else that comes to mind too in this scenario is, showing grace and compassion towards yourself and also others, because, there's so many things going on, especially now, also with COVID-19. People find themselves maybe working from home for the first time. Every family member is going to be at home all of a sudden. It's homeschooling. There's so many things that are coming in that are, in a way, will prevent us to do what we normally would do, or be as efficient as we normally do in all these different areas. And I think this is the time to really, showing more grace and compassion, for sure. And, it's not the time to strive for perfection by any means, because things are not going to be the same. And so I think it's important to have that in the back of your mind too. And if somebody like a leader already has the capacity to kind of recover quickly from challenges, by building resilience, I think that's a great tool to have. But if that's not the case, I think every challenge is an opportunity to really um, learn those skills, to start building resilience, so kind of to be ready for whatever happens in the future. It's kind of out of our control. And so those are kind of the things that come to mind in terms of how to show up as a leader in challenging times.
Okay, that's cool. Thanks for that. So that's primarily you as an individual, and how you manage yourself in this challenging times. Is that correct?
Yes, I definitely would always go back to starting with kind of doing the work on your own first. Um, because to really have the tools to even be able to support others along the way, and help them kind of look inward, and kind of see if they're having the tools and are taking care of themselves, so they're not burning out or being super stressed in the process, or having maybe other negative feelings.
So you're saying it's more of a case of putting on your own oxygen mask first before you can help other people.
Yes, exactly. That's a great analogy.
Okay, that makes sense. So if you're a leader then, how do you deal with the fact that you may be constrained in what you can do, and there might not be, options that you want to take that just aren't present? What do you do if you just can't change things?
Yes, I think, where I would start with is I'm a firm believer that we always have options. And I think it's a matter of really understanding or even seeing that the options are there. It might be different. Um, there might be, less options maybe than before, but there's always options. So what I mean by that is just focusing on the things you can actually do that are within our control, and really focusing even on if there is one small thing you can do, maybe one option. Maybe you cannot look at all, like a big variety of options for some time, but what focusing on what you can actually do. And also trusting, and that's a big one. The trusting usually takes a little time to really develop, but also trusting that things will turn out the right way, even if we don't foresee or don't kind of see how it will turn out. We cannot kind of project ourselves in the future, but I think if we trust the process and trust that we can work with what we have, even if it's might not be what we thought we would do or the option we would have, but looking at what we can do and at the same time trusting that it will be, everything will be all right. And that's a big one. That's not easy to do, but it's definitely very effective in when somebody in a leader, but also other people in general, when you're able to trust the process, things actually really happen, in a way that it's great for, for people and for leaders. So they kind of go hand in hand, but because it's something that's not tangible in the process, it's a little harder to kind of build that, and build that trust feeling, or the trust kind of trusting mentality or mindset in some way.
Okay. Thank you for that. Is that part of your ultimate you method?
Yes, I would say yes, those are definitely parts of it. And it's really very focused on the person itself or on the leader itself, because it's crucial that we are really starting within ourselves. What resources do we have within ourselves that we are not even aware of? And so kind of in my work as a coach is really helping the client to really bring those resources to the surface, so that they are also aware of what they're actually capable of and what they have within themselves that they may even not know that it was there in the first place. And so kind of helping to have a different perspective in having tools that are really at your fingertips already, that that are very beneficial in serving you.
Okay. So what exactly is your methodology? What happens?
Yes, so the first part, it's really going a little bit more deeper in the sense to kind of discover kind of the missing puzzle piece. That's how I like to call it, that has been holding my clients back from really becoming their authentic selves. Usually my clients are the high achievers, but that they kind of keep, they've checked all the boxes of success, but they don't feel really happy deep down. They feel something is missing. So those are the ones that I usually work with. And those are the ones that we need to kind of get to that missing puzzle piece. What's behind the scenes that makes them feel like something is missing, or something isn't, they don't feel happy deep down. And then another piece or another part is really addressing what's in the way, with some practical tools, that they can actually implement. And a lot of the things, again, it's really tapping into their own resources. more than me, myself giving all the different tools, because they really are very resourceful, and I see that all the time, and I think it's beautiful to see, first of all, for me too. So I'm just kind of the helper, the one that helps them, bring them up, up front, so they realize that they actually have them already. And then, the other piece, it's also like creating kind of a roadmap for them, to have something to work with, and having some kind of simple steps that they can do, just even on, especially on their own, because I think everybody is kind of different, and not everything works for everybody. So I think it's important that they are able to have tools that are working from them specifically, and sometimes it takes some experimenting to do, to see, in some tweaking, to see what actually is the best way. And I think that's important for all of us, to not to feel like, well, this works for maybe this person or this leader or this company, but it might not work for another one, or maybe there's some tweaks to be done. Maybe the general concept works, but it's more some tweaks to make it more personal, so people can do it, are able to actually implement things on a daily basis without struggles.
Okay, so it's primarily then searching to what the thing is that's not making you feel fulfilled, and then giving some practical tools on how to fix that with an action plan so it gets done.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So I define mavericks as willfully independent people. And I'm wondering, do mavericks follow the same process, or do they do it slightly differently?
You mean in the United States?
Well, anyway, really, I'm thinking about your ultimate methodology, where you find the issue, or you find the thing that's stopping you from getting there, and then you move on to some practical tools, and then you have the roadmap. Does every human being follow that same process, or do you think mavericks do it slightly differently?
No, I think so thank you so much for repeating the question, by the way. Now I understood it. So it's the process, it's similar to, for everybody, but what I would say, in the scenario of, more the maverick, I think it's kind of the additional drive, for change, or for wanting to make this work. I think everybody I work with, they already have a little of that. Otherwise, most likely we would not be working together. They already have this, this intention and the commitment. But I think with somebody's more, would consider themselves more of a maverick, I think it's definitely a little, higher. I mean, there is a higher willingness to wanting to change, or to, kind of really taking action, trying things that maybe are out of their comfort zone more, new things, maybe just not going with the masses type of mentality, right? So just following their gut, and not worrying about, what everybody else thinks. They're just more, I would say that's where I see the difference.
Yeah, and I would say, thinking about it, mavericks will spend longer on the first stage in terms of uncovering the issue. So they'll probably spend a lot longer making sure they totally understand what that issue is. Because the way that mavericks think, and the fact that they're execution and success driven, is that if they know what the problem is, they don't need to worry that it's not going to get fixed, because they would get, because no maverick likes leaving a problem just there on the table for them to walk past and see every day. It needs to be sorted, otherwise what was the point in the first place? Yes. So whereas, like, what I see is a lot of people rush to get to the action plan, but they have to constantly come back and back and back and back, because they haven't spent the time sort of really excavating to see what is the issue, and that can take a lot longer. But it means that when it's all dug up, and now it's very easy to just get it fixed.
Yes, I totally agree. Yes, you brought up a great point, because it's really, otherwise it's really not effective. Yeah, if you're not starting with what's behind the scenes first, and not glancing over it and just wanting to jump into action right away. Yes, I totally agree.
Because I think with socialised mavericks, they're very much kind of course it will, by me saying that I'll address it means I'll address it. It's almost like
Yes.
you almost like you don't need someone to tell you. It's not. So the mavericks that I work with, it's not the getting it done. They don't need accountability to do it. It's more the exploration of what the issue is and making sure they totally get that, looking at what are the actions that will fix it. Because once you know what they are, the actions will take place. It's more of a case not of accountability, but to making sure that they stay the course and don't get overexcited on some other issue that they're curious about.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I'm a big believer in, the kind of I call it detective work.
Mm-hmm.
Just, taking your magnifying glass and just, and working at, those deeper layers and really getting to the core and the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think even with physical ailments or physical issues, I have the same approach. Like, I want to know why things happen, because otherwise, if you just use those banded approaches, and the same with emotional well-being, it's like, you're not getting very far. Even if you have the resources you can use as far as what to do from an action standpoint, if you're still dealing with the root cause that's not really being addressed, or it's not clear, you're not able to really move forward. So I think in both physical health and, mental and emotional health, is definitely a big part of it, is finding exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Yes.
So, taking that on board, then, how does somebody ensure they don't become emotionally overwhelmed with what they discover?
So when they are when they become emotional, when they discover what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and what needs to be done. So quite often people don't realise there's a lot of work to be done, because it's like, oh, here's the problem, I just need to fix that. But then when you dig, you realise that problem has maybe 15 or 20 other things that's feeding into that problem. They all need to be addressed. So that can be overwhelming for some people.
Yeah, so what I'm actually seeing more is that usually it's really not a lot. It's just one thing or maybe two, but usually it's about it's there is a kind of a main thing that kind of has effect on different areas, but it's actually not very many things. It's just this one thing, or a main thing that it's just the main thread that will show up in all the different areas. So I think the overwhelm is not very present in what I'm seeing, because when they know, oh, this is why, and this is why I'm experiencing all of these other things, then it's like, well, it's this one thing, right? This main thread. So it's the overwhelm is more, if it comes, and it's more related to finally getting to the root cause, and in the overwhelm, it's almost like in a positive sense, in the sense that they're, the emotional piece comes in when they finally realize, now I can connect the dots. Now I understand why I've been feeling this way for such a long time, or why things have not happened for such a long time, right? And so I think that's where more it comes in, kind of the realization of, well, this is it. Now I know. And kind of their answers have their questions have been answered. So I think that's where more it comes in, because in the what's behind the scenes is really a main thread. So there's not like a bunch of stuff, that they have like, oh my gosh, there's like 50 things I have to, look at. It's really just really usually one or two things, in my experience. So that's the good news. That's the good news. But so I don't see much of that, I have to say, as far as relating to, the amount of things, because it's just really, when we get there, it's just everything, like, it's like, the light bulb goes off, it's like, oh, it's an aha moment, it's a breakthrough, and then everything becomes clear right there, and so it doesn't require really a lot of time.
Okay, because do you mainly coach around people's lives and stuff? Are you a life coach mainly, or a business coach?
It's yes, no, definitely not a business coach. It's definitely more related to life, life, and with the the focus on the emotional well-being. And I take kind of health in general into account, but I prefer focusing on the emotional well-being. And I let kind of the health coaching a little bit on the side as far as me doing that part. I usually have others that would focus more on healthy eating and things like that. So I really just focus on the emotional, but it is life in a way that is kind of looking at the different aspects. So, but I'm not I would not say I'm a business coach. We might talk about work, but it's not like business coaching. It's just related to their own, way of being in relation to their work.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I tend to, if I'm doing mentoring, it's business owners, obviously it's around their business. And what I see is, when I was thinking about the overwhelm, is that, say that they present with, I've got this business, it's doing okay, but I'm not getting the sales that I want, and I'm not achieving the big goal that I want. When you start to unravel it, it's like a thread, isn't it, that just keeps it's like a ball of wool that ends up in the cat's paws. Yes. When you start pulling at it, it's just like, oh, it's because you haven't got a proposition that's really clear. Oh, you haven't got a proposition that's really clear because you don't really know what you do. Oh, you don't really know what you do because you concentrate. It just keeps on unwinding, and it can be overwhelming for some people to say, oh my gosh, I've got to spend some time working at this stuff. But it's so much rewarding because the time is spent in the foundational work, and then the actually monetizing it and moving it forward can be done at such a rapid pace because all the hard work's already done if you've put the time and effort in.
Yes, and I also think that's why somebody like you, it's crucial in this process because otherwise leaders would not even be able to build that foundation. And and I think that's where the guidance and the coaching and the consulting is so important, to not only manage all the things that are being unraveled, but also to actually able to to go where where you want to be going. With it's much easier when there's somebody on your side to help you with that.
That sure is. Yes. Thank you for that. Before we end, is there anything you'd like me to have asked you that I didn't?
Honestly not. You asked great question. I really enjoyed it so far.
Excellent. That's cool. So you would come back again if we found another topic?
I'd love to. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jude.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Pamela as much as I enjoyed having it.
If you are pathologically curious and would love to find out more about the Maverick Paradox, then please subscribe to this podcast on one of the popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, you could explore our resources on Mavericks at maverickparadox.com or read the Maverick Paradox magazine. We publish frequently each week. If you subscribe, you will get our monthly newsletter. And let's not forget my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. For those that love a good discussion, you could apply to join our exclusive Facebook group. And finally, if you would like to work with us or just interested in finding out more about the Maverick at work, check out our website maverickparadox.co.uk.